Well, it's a great pleasure to welcome Dimension Data to this year's My Broadband Cloud Conference 2021, albeit all virtual. It's a great pleasure to welcome Kyle Stanton, who's the go-to-market executive for intelligent infrastructure at Dimension Data. Kyle, great pleasure to welcome you to the My Broadband Conference. I think it's your first one that you are joining us in. I imagine the last 18 months has been very interesting.
A very interesting few months. But first of all, thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to be at the Cloud Conference this year, speaking to the My Broadband Forum, and looking forward to this discussion with you. Going back to the point on interesting, I think the pandemic has forced all of us to look at ourselves, our businesses, our environments very, very differently. And it's been a learning experience. We've been forced to innovate as an organization. We've been forced to quickly change and adjust and pivot to rapidly changing client expectations and demands. But this is what technology and disruption is all about, and a very, very exciting future ahead for all of us.
Yeah, and I don't think that the speed of which the last 18 months has moved is going to change anytime soon. I mean, while organizations have been digitally transforming for some time now, that need has accelerated exponentially in the last 12 to 18 months, besides the need for organizations to rapidly adjust to navigate these uncertainties. Is there an underlying force accelerating this, this transformation? I imagine COVID is there as well. But I guess also organizations have realized, we need to do this. I mean, what are you seeing out there, Kyle?
The underlying force in my mind is disruption. There's three things that I'd like to mention. First of all, disruption can be and is the rapidly changing expectations of our stakeholders. Stakeholders can be shareholders, clients, employees. The second component, which I think is very relevant, is the significant change in competition that we see driven by digital. Legacy or established organizations face the threat of new digital cloud-first organizations coming in and eating their lunch. And the third one is the pace of change. We often speak about how change is happening at a significant speed. I think over the last 12 months, forced by the pandemic, we've rarely experienced that. One example that I'd like to give is the move from traditional work into distributed work. Over the last 12 months, we did not, our clients and ourselves to a certain extent, were not prepared for the rapid change that we were going to see in our employee landscape. Clients were ill prepared in their enablement of their employees in the distributed work environment. Things as basic as connectivity, power, security. Not only are they considerations, and not only are they critically important in ensuring that your employees are productive, efficient, and effective, but they just were not necessarily in place, and it put business continuity at a significant risk. We too faced that same challenge, and we were forced to innovate during that time. And there were a number of products and capabilities that we built to deliver on those challenges that our clients face. But I think it's just a very important, example of the speed of change that we are seeing in the environment today. And digital is no longer a choice. It's something that we have to do because of those factors that I mentioned earlier.
That's so interesting. I remember talking to Jeremy Ord just in the beginning of the pandemic, and he was just telling me how the technology and the infrastructure is there and how quickly people adapted to the changes. Now, where are organizations on their cloud journey right now? I mean, what are you seeing in terms of that cloud progression in South Africa in particular, Kyle?
I don't want to go into COVID too much, but speaking about that catalyst, and I promise I won't mention it again, but
okay.
We are starting to see this cloud first narrative come out of our clients, come out of the market more and more and more. I believe that the pandemic was one of the drivers, but it's also forced and ingrained an understanding with a number of clients that digital is going to become a competitive advantage. When you look at global standards, if you look at market trends, when you speak about digital, you speak about cloud. They're not separate. They're mutually beneficial to each other. So this aspect of cloud first is something that we're seeing in South Africa with different levels of maturity across the African continent. In saying that, Aki, we have access to amazing data and insight through the NTT group. And there are a number of things that we're seeing in South Africa, but there are a number of things that we're learning from NTT in the journey to cloud, because a number of our global counterparts or clients in other locations around the world are slightly further down that journey. Not saying that we are lagging in all instances, but one of the specifics that we are seeing is, even though there's this cloud first narrative, we do know that our clients are struggling to make the right decisions on where they should put their workloads, what process they should follow, what do you transform first, where to place specific applications based on different business drivers, and then how do you govern and manage your cloud environment, which could be in a single hyperscaler. But we are seeing hybrid cloud as the most significant strategy for most of our clients. And why I say that, Aki, is as much as people say they have a cloud first strategy, when they start to look at the complexities of their application environment, the complexities of their workload, the interdependencies of their infrastructure and business drivers, it doesn't always make sense to move it into a single place. It might make sense to keep something on site for a period of time. That could be short-term, medium-term. When I say on site, it could be private cloud. There are many ways of delivering services in that model. Other clients are looking at bare bones infrastructure as a service, but we're definitely seeing the majority and the significant push to hyperscaler first, Azure, AWS. From a Dimension Data perspective, we are investing in exactly that. We believe that even though we speak a hybrid cloud story and hybrid cloud value proposition, the most significant aspect and capability we need as an organization is around being able to deliver migration, advisory services, migration services, and managed services in a hyperscale environment, but also a hybrid cloud environment. I spoke about the clients struggling with governance and security, and this is a significant challenge that we're seeing in the market. There's some marketing talk around repatriation from clouds. When you read about the concept repatriation, I think there are many opinions, or I don't think there are many opinions around whether that is a real thing and whether that's a phenomenon that is actually taking place. So I'd say it's not a fact. But what I can say is a fact is clients are struggling with the governance and security. And that's one of the areas where Dimension Data believes we can add significant value because of our capabilities across multiple domains that we can apply to a cloud world.
Yeah, interesting you say that. I mean, governance and security seems to be the one, hurdle that seems to be coming up over and over again. And then you just suggested the path there. A lot of people have got that knee-jerk reaction of the cloud, and it needs to be a cautious approach. So what would be a suggested approach for a customer considering going to the cloud?
First thing that we drive within our clients is gain an understanding, create the visibility of the strategy and business objectives, the existing application ecosystem, and how that aligns to your strategy and business objectives. And the third component is really around the enablement factors that are often ignored in the considerations or the journey to cloud. Those enablement factors are security, networking, governance, and visibility to build the foundation for a successful cloud journey. The way Dimension Data creates that understanding is through our consulting approach and expertise that we can provide our clients across all of those different domains. The second step is planning. It's taking everything that we understand out of the first aspect of the process and putting it into an execution that aligns with the short, medium, and long-term objectives of the client and the associated organizations. The third aspect is around the execution. And we break execution up into two areas. First of all, we believe you need to get the foundation right. Many clients who drive the cloud-first narrative, or clients that were seen as first movers into cloud, struggle significantly with governance, security, and other enablement factors that allow them to successfully extract the value they need out of their cloud environments. So the foundational items for us is around building a landing zone, building an enablement environment that provides you with the visibility and controls that you need in a hybrid or multi-cloud world. Once that's done, the second component of execution for us is around the migration of your workloads. Now, that's closely related to your application visibility that I mentioned in point number one. And we know that there are a number of strategies that you can look to in terms of your move of applications, depending on their ecosystem, their context, their code, and a number of other things. Then the fourth aspect for us is really around operate and optimize. Operate for us is around managed services in the cloud, be it hybrid cloud or multi-cloud, and leveraging the appropriate processes, people, and tooling to efficiently and effectively manage the complexities for our clients in these environments. But most importantly is the optimization. Now, many cloud processes are linear from left to right. We believe in a more iterative, continuous process, very closely aligned to DevOps, where the optimization, the understanding, the planning, the execution, and the operate components are continuous to ensure a sustainable cloud strategy and cloud journey for our clients going forward.
Wow, it's pretty interesting and a comprehensive answer. Thanks for that, Kyle. I mean, when is it a good option, to lift and shift those workloads to the cloud versus refactoring for cloud? Because there's a big difference there.
It's a good question, Aki. I think in my experience, refactoring is ultimately the best approach, but there's a number of complexities that you could face within your legacy application environment that may prohibit you. Why you look at refactoring is because when the application is written for the environment which in it resides, there are peripheral benefits in terms of platform capabilities, ML, AI, that application can leverage and benefit from, rather than just moving it in its current state. There are certain applications, it could be based on operating system version, it could be a number of other things where you can't just lift and shift. So I think refactoring or getting your applications to a state where the environment and the applications are in sync is the ideal state. But we do know that clients have different levels of complexity that might prevent that. Some application modernization or application transformation processes could take 12 to 18 months just in a single application, depending on your complexity before you move. And in that case, lift and shift to an appropriate platform based on your business driver, which could be cost, might be a viable alternative for you in the short to medium term. We don't see our infrastructure as a service capabilities as a long-term capability that we'll always harness within Dimension Data. But we know that over the next, I'd say 12 to 36 to 60 months, clients will still look for infrastructure environments that can allow for a lift and shift while you refactor, while you modernize, while you replatform into the hyperscalers.
So in Dimension Data's approach to leverage hybrid infrastructure, embracing hybrid approaches and placing critical applications and workloads, be they systems of record, insight or engagement, in the most appropriate venues, the cloud, hosted or on-premise to realize better outcomes, how important does an organization's data center strategy play? I mean, are data centers dead?
Aki, are data centers dead? Absolutely not. But there's two aspects to that answer that I'd like to break down. First of all, data centers are a critical ingredient to an economy, or let me say digital economy now and into the future. We all know that services products are moving to digital are moving online. And our reliance on data and applications and services that we consume in a digital manner is increasing on a daily basis. So having data centers that can that are reliable, high performance, built at scale at the appropriate price is critically important to any economy going forward, as I said, but more specifically this country. In Africa, there is more demand for data centers than supply, and I mentioned data see that as a significant opportunity. One of the reasons is the hyperscalers are moving onto this continent more and more. We already see Azure and AWS on this continent, and I'm sure that over the next few months and years, we'll start to see other hyperscalers come onto this continent or expansion of the existing hyperscaler footprint. So the demand and supply, there's definitely an opportunity there. And then linking back to the previous answer, the previous component of that answer is that our reliance on digital and applications is of such a nature that you need the appropriate infrastructure to keep services available. The second thing I want to touch on is I do not believe that organizations that are not in the data center industry or the technology industry, and this is not part of their core business, should be buying or building their own data centers. There's a number of reasons for that. If I think about why clients or the considerations that clients need to look into when buying data centers, I think it comes down to often price, proximity, and proximity means your ability to access data, applications, your stakeholders, the consumers of data very easily with the appropriate levels of performance. The third aspect is, as I mentioned now, performance, and the fourth one being protection or elements of security. And you can find an appropriate solution for those problems in the market today. And with the migration to cloud that's aggressively happening and that we've discussed over the last few minutes, I think it's going to become more and more difficult for organizations to effectively manage capacity and cost when owning and running their own data centers. So on the first component, data centers are critically important to this economy. The second aspect, I don't believe data centers should be built and owned by organizations that is not part of their core business. And then I'll close with a story from someone within our organization. Over the last 12 months, we bought an AWS consultancy and professional services firm. And I remember the first time that I met with the founder of the organization, we were having a discussion, and it came up that one of the things he says is, friends don't let friends build data centers. And I think that's very relevant in the conversation that we've just had, and I agree with that. But I would say that friends do let friends co-locate in the facilities that deliver on their business objectives and can allow them to focus on their business, their strategy, and rather buy a data center service from someone who's better positioned to deliver that to them.
I like the way you answered that. Very diplomatic, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, the demand is certainly there, and building a data center is no easy task. I mean, there are massive challenges that come with it. So challenges that are associated with network performance or availability are really seen as the second biggest barrier to adopting hybrid cloud. What are some of those challenges, Kyle, that organizations face when it comes to legacy networking or aging network infrastructure that we hear so often about?
Aki, I think when we speak about cloud, words like flexibility and agility are often mentioned and are key ingredients in why people move to cloud. When you speak about networks and clients' experience with networks and the market's experience with networks, you often find that the link between cloud and applications and the demands of flexibility and agility don't necessarily translate to the way networks are designed, deployed, and managed today. Not only do networks at times lack visibility, but that integration to the application environment, the client environment, the business as a whole is not as tight as it needs to be. So when clients move to cloud, they often forget the importance of resilient connectivity, latency, a secure network, your ability to access your data both privately or publicly, what's the most effective and most cost-effective and most efficient way to get there. And it's an example of how networks are not necessarily built for cloud, and there needs to be a transformation of network design. We speak about the edge to cloud network fabric and the way that we bring that together through our orchestration and automation capabilities within our software-defined core network within Dimension Data. But ultimately, what the network needs to become is an integrated ecosystem with a client's application environment, an API-driven network that can start to be closely linked to the flexibility and agility that our clients require. If you look at an e-commerce use case, today, networks don't scale based on demand, depending on the different integration points and the design of your network. Tomorrow, networks need to be integrated, but need to scale on application performance from your branch environment to your campus environment. It could be your end user and your consumer of data that can sit anywhere around the world. Mm-hmm. And then orchestration and automation of the network engine from edge to cloud becomes critically important in aligning business requirement, application requirement, and the scalability of your infrastructure. Too much money is wasted in deploying inefficient networks in the wrong place at the wrong time, but also your ability to manage those networks proactively, keep data and your clients up with the appropriate levels of visibility has been lacking. As software-defined technology has moved on, you'll start to see networks become more intelligent, more integrated, and ultimately an enabler to not only your cloud journey, but your business as a whole.
Wow, lots to think about over there. I mean, Carl, you've raised so many interesting issues. Is this opportunity, or is it going to be oblivion?
This is, if I understand your question correctly, I think it's one of what we see as one of the biggest opportunities. Networks, the ingredients into building a strong network capability, a strong data center capability, a strong cloud capability aren't new to anyone. They aren't new to our competitors. They aren't necessarily new to our clients. It's the way you deliver. It's the client experience when delivering. It's your ability to bring it together in an automated and integrated fashion so you can deliver the business efficiency, the performance, and meet the client demands in a flexible and agile manner. And the horse we're backing is our ability to bring the edge to cloud together in a very, very efficient, cost-effective, and high-performance manner to drive that flexibility and agility that the businesses demand. If you look at global research reports from NTT, most CIOs in a research report that we went out to market on last year, about 1,000 CIOs globally said that flexibility and agility were some of their most important business drivers within their organizations post the pandemic. And that means it's your ability to change. It's your ability to make decisions quickly. It's ability to ensure that you're not leaving money on the table. And we back ourselves to bring the edge to cloud together in a very, very, very efficient manner.
Well, certainly very much a multi-pronged approach. There's no easy way, but you need to consider a lot of factors. But talk to the experts, and it's been fantastic chatting to you, Carl Stanton. Thank you for joining us. Carl is the go-to-market executive for intelligent infrastructure Dimension Data. This is a great pleasure to have Dimension Data at this year's My Broadband Cloud Conference. Carl, thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing your insights. We do appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Aki, and thanks for having me.
Thank you.